These are SpongeBob's scariest episodes of all time, the third one being Graveyard Shift. The episode starts with Squidward locking up the Krusty Krab and turning the sign to closed. Some fish walks up asking for a Krabby Patty Deluxe, even though the sign definitely says closed. But then the fish says Mr. Krab's favorite word, money. And of course he wants more money, so now the Krusty Krab's open 24/7. SpongeBob is super excited to work at night. Weirdo. Squidward isn't very excited though and hands a fish a bat to smack him. If working a double wasn't enough, SpongeBob continually annoys Squidward, so he gets the plan to ask SpongeBob to take out the trash so he can have some peace. So far, SpongeBob has been happy and chilling until this exact moment. He realizes how far the trash can is and how dark it is and starts second guessing it. I thought you liked the night shift though. SpongeBob, trying to prove Squidward wrong, builds up the courage and piece of cake. Squidward realizes something in this moment. SpongeBob is terrified, so he comes up with a cruel plan to play a prank on SpongeBob. So he decides to tell SpongeBob the terrifying story about the hash slinging slasher, the slash bringing hasher, the hash slinging slasher, the sash ringing, the trash slinging. Squidward says that people actually just call him the because that's all they can say before he gets them. And SpongeBob starts freaking out. He says that a long time ago the hash slinging slasher was a fry cook and worked at a Krusty Krab just like SpongeBob. But then one night while he was cutting the patties, he forgot the secret sauce. He actually cut off his entire arm. Now SpongeBob isn't scared at all because like his arms can just like grow back like this or like this or like this or like this. But Squidward won't admit defeat. He tells SpongeBob that the hatchling slasher's arm never grew back and he replaced it with a rusty spatula, and he gets him to scream again. Squidward is going really hard with this prank and it's only going to get worse. Squidward then says the hatchling slasher got hit by a bus, but SpongeBob literally gets more scared at the fact that he got fired from his job. Weirdo. Anyway, Squidward says that what day is it? Tuesday night, the hatchling slasher returns to the Krusty Krab to reap his horrible vengeance. He tells SpongeBob that there are 3 signs that warn you of the slasher. First, the lights will flicker on and off. Next, the phone will ring, but no one's gonna be there. Then he gets off of the bus that killed him and crosses the street without looking. Then he taps on the window with his rusty spatula, comes up to the counter, and then he gets ya! Squidward jump scared SpongeBob so badly he literally cannot stop screaming, but he gets a good laugh out of it. He then tells him that it was a joke, which is kind of messed up, but he will receive his karma, just wait. But at least SpongeBob found it funny and now he can't stop laughing. Now it's later in the night and there are no more customers in the Krusty Krab, and Squidward hears a really creepy noise, but it's okay, it's just SpongeBob mopping the ceiling. What? Squidward is still annoyed that they're open, wonders who'd want a Krabby Patty at 3 in the morning, and we see the iconic scene of Patrick, oh boy, 3 a.m. and he just munches on a Krabby Patty. But then something really weird happens. The lights start flickering on and off, just like Squidward's story. You think SpongeBob's doing it, but he's not, and the switch next to him isn't even moving. Now Squidward is the one that's starting to be creeped out. SpongeBob still thinks it's a joke. Then the phone starts to ring, but no one is there. Squidward is really starting to freak out now, and SpongeBob is still laughing about it. And then the last sign. Out of the fog emerges a creepy bus, and someone with a spatula for a hand gets dropped off across the street. SpongeBob still thinks it's a joke and thanks Squidward for going to such lengths for the commitment to this joke, but Squidward then makes it clear that he's not really doing this, and they both get extremely scared. Their hair grows and starts wiggling. The hash slinging slasher starts to approach the counter, and they are hugging each other before their death, so they admit some secrets. Squidward says he's always sort of liked SpongeBob, which is crazy to me. We know Squidward for hating SpongeBob so much, and this just changes so much of how I view their dynamic, but we won't get into that. SpongeBob admits he uses clarinet to unclog his toilet, and then it turns out it was just a nice kid trying to apply for a job. He even brought his own spatula. He also was the one who tried calling the store, but he just got nervous and hung up. Now this whole thing is a little fishy though. Right before this scene when the bus was outside, Squidward told SpongeBob the buses don't operate late at night. So how did this kid get access to a bus? My only guess is that he knows someone who owns a bus, or he's like from somewhere that isn't Bikini Bottom, but I seriously don't know. Anyways, if he was the one who called, then who was flickering the lights? Nosferatu. Then it just ends. By the way, Nosferatu was a 1922 silent film, and the writers of this episode thought it would be cool to add him, but I honestly feel like he had a part in this little prank towards Squidward too, especially since the little fry cook kid knew him. Maybe he heard Squidward's little story and made it come true, calling his little homie to come act like the hatchling slasher. I don't know. This episode is just a masterpiece though, and was written very well. The intro starts with an icebreaker joke, then introduces a new concept never really seen before, the Krusty Krab at night. Most SpongeBob episodes are very fun and happy and during the day, and this one took a 180, being dark, scary, but also keeping that fun joking aspect that makes SpongeBob SpongeBob. We get to see Squidward scare SpongeBob with an obviously made up story, then get extreme karma back, which is kind of satisfying and also terrifying. We see so many different emotions from these two characters in only a short span of 11 minutes, and it's so entertaining. entertaining. Not to mention the episode is just terrifying. The noises, the atmosphere, the suspense of seeing a joke become something terrifying and serious, and the crazy plot twist that makes you go from terrified on the edge of your seat to confused and laughing, which is kind of cool though, because we just experienced the exact emotion SpongeBob experienced when Squidward told him the original story. The second scariest episode is Spongehedge. From the start of the episode, the atmosphere is already pretty unsettling because it's a very windy night in Bikini Bottom. We see a couple leaving the restaurant talking about how windy it is. One blaming Neptune and the other blaming Poseidon. But anyways, their leftovers get swept into the wind, and bam, some goulash smacks SpongeBob right in the face, waking him up. When SpongeBob tries to return the lost goulash, he notices something very interesting about the wind. The holes in his body make a whistling sound when the air passes through them. At first, he thinks it's pretty funny, and he's enjoying it using his body as an instrument, but it's actually a curse, and you'll see why. There's a jellyfish that pops up and seems to love SpongeBob's whistling pores, but when morning comes, there's a problem. The jellyfish are so obsessed with SpongeBob that they won't even let him go to work, and Mr. Krabs straight up has to drag him there with a fishing rod. After he gets to work, a window opens up, and his body music starts going through the vents in the Krusty Krab, and all the jellyfish show up again. SpongeBob begs the jellyfish to let him work, but the wind is so strong, and the whole Krusty Krab gets swept away, including SpongeBob. SpongeBob needs to find a new hiding spot, so he tries to hide under Patrick's rock, but the jellyfish find him again, and Patrick kicks him out because one of them stings him. SpongeBob is chased relentlessly until he finds a cold, dark cave where the wind doesn't get in, and he's finally safe from the jellyfish. He spends so much time in this cave that he carves an entire statue of himself and starts talking to it. He's really losing his mind. He even has a tea party with the statue and is going psychotic, but he gets an idea from this after blowing into the stone sponge. This sponge can also make music with the holes, so SpongeBob tries to give a jellyfish the statue to see if they will leave him alone, but the holes aren't perfect and make kind of bad music, so they end up still going after SpongeBob. This drives him even crazier because now he believes if he can create a statue with the perfect dimensions, the jellyfish will be satisfied and he will finally be free. SpongeBob kind of goes overboard and spends probably forever sculpting a few huge statues of himself, and when he gets them set up in the middle of jellyfish fields, all the jellyfish are finally satisfied and decide to leave him alone. SpongeBob is finally happy and finally free and decides to go back to work, but when he gets to the Krusty Krab, he starts screaming because it's deserted and literally sinking into the ground. He then cries out because he realizes he probably wasted so much time in that cave. Now, many people theorize that SpongeBob was gone for years and actually died alone, but I think that may be wrong. So in the outro scene, we go 3,000 years into the future, and it shows that the SpongeBob statues have become a tourist attraction because the jellyfish migrate there every year. Did you miss that? The migration? This means the wind and jellyfish do stop. So if they stop and they didn't stop by the time he created these statues, then maybe it hasn't even been a year. We have to realize that he was trapped in a cave, losing his mind with no sense of time. So maybe a month or a couple could feel like forever. Also, maybe the Krusty Krab just kept flying away, so Mr. Krabs buried it to keep it safe for the time being. Who knows? I can definitely see why this episode is described as the darkest episode ever. SpongeBob, our happy protagonist, goes insane and gets depressed. Everyone he knows forgets about him and kicks him out of their lives because of the jellyfish. SpongeBob is the most social fish in this world, and he is trapped alone with no one to talk to. It's scary too because we don't know if he'll go back to his regular life ever again, and he is practically being hunted and controlled by jellyfish, and he has no help. Also, if my theory is wrong, that means he also dies alone, which is very depressing and awful. And finally, the scariest SpongeBob episode of all time is, of course, Rock Bottom. This episode actually starts off pretty nice. We see that SpongeBob and Patrick just had an amazing day at Glove World, and they're about to take the bus home, and they show off all the cool stuff they got. The only thing is they got on the wrong bus and end up in a really dark, scary place called Rock Bottom. As soon as they get there, they both start to freak out and see a lot of weird deep sea creatures. SpongeBob tells Patrick to wait while he goes and tries to find a bus schedule. But while he's checking, Patrick gets on the bus home and leaves SpongeBob there all alone. He tries to run after him, but the road is so weird and he can't make it. Also here, SpongeBob quotes something his grandpa said.
"Don't run for a bus that's going up at a 90-degree angle."
Which also means SpongeBob's grandpa got trapped here too. Anyways, this episode just got a whole lot creepier because now SpongeBob is in a dark, weird place all alone. He tries really hard to get onto a bus again, but he keeps missing it. I honestly feel as if this bus is kind of doing it on purpose. Maybe they don't like sponges. I mean, it would make sense if Grandpa SpongeBob was also running after a bus. The bus continues to mess with him for a while until he just goes to a bus station and spends hours waiting in an extremely long line. When he finally gets to the front, they're speaking a weird language where they fart after each word. So SpongeBob learns how to communicate with the rock bottom fish, and he finds his bus is gonna leave in a few seconds, and of course he misses it again. The Ticketmaster tells SpongeBob that it was the last bus of the night and shuts off all the lights. We all know by now SpongeBob is terrified of the dark, so he uses his Glove World flashlight, but of course the battery goes out in a second and he's left in the darkness like no other. SpongeBob is literally in what people call the midnight zone, a place with only fishes with lights on them should be, and he's just a sponge. SpongeBob, already terrified, starts hearing farts in the distance, and they start getting louder and louder, and he starts running for his life. He thinks he's about to die, but it's just the guy from earlier who went to go chase his balloon. He actually gives SpongeBob his balloon back and blows it up so much that it sends SpongeBob back up to the Bikini Bottom. It seems every single time SpongeBob thinks he's about to die, he meets someone nice. Also, this fish speaks normal, which makes me question if these fish sometimes go up to where SpongeBob lives. Anyways, the episode ends with Patrick going back to Rock Bottom to get SpongeBob after he already left. This episode is really creepy compared to other episodes. The fact that he's lost in some foreign town at the bottom of the ocean is what makes this episode really scary and unsettling. Being alone itself is scary, but then paired with being lost in the middle of the night, this episode seriously makes you sit on the edge of your seat the entire time because you really just can't predict it. But I don't know. I'm just watching TV.